Have you ever had someone look you in the eye and ask for a break, while their signature was already drying on the cancellation of your future? Share your story in the comments. Hit the like button and subscribe to see what happens next. My name is Mara Ellis Dovrin, and I am 32 years old. It was a Tuesday when the sky broke open. The rain came down hard, shiny and silver, like tiny strings falling from the clouds. The whole city looked gray and soft, like someone had drawn it with a pencil and then rubbed their thumb over the lines. The streets were shiny, and the windows had water running down them like tears. That was the day Julian came to see me. He had just come in from the rain. Tiny drops of water were still sitting on the sleeves of his coat. His face looked serious, too serious. His jaw was tight, and his mouth was pressed into a thin line, like he was holding back a truth he didn't want to say out loud. He stood by the door, holding his umbrella, and said, "We need to talk." His voice was soft but not gentle. It was the kind of soft that people use when they're trying not to sound mean. I didn't know what to say, so I went to make tea. Making tea is something that keeps your hands busy when your heart feels strange. I poured hot water into 2 cups and watched the steam curl up like ribbons before it vanished. While I stirred sugar into my cup, Julian started talking. "My parents think we're moving too fast," he said. "They're worried about the future. They think you might not be ready for the kind of life they want for me." He didn't say it, but I could hear the real words behind his careful ones. Not good enough. The air in the room felt heavy, like his wet umbrella sitting on the floor. I asked, "So, what are you saying, Julian?" My voice didn't even sound like mine. It was calm, almost too calm, like I was reading a shopping list. He looked down at his hands and said, "I think we need a break. Just some space. Time to think. For me and for you too." He reached out for my hand, but didn't take it. The walls around us felt like they were listening. The rain kept falling, steady and cold. It was such a bad time for something like this. We had spent 4 years together. The wedding plans were almost done. The invitations were sent. The big hall with shiny chandeliers was booked for the spring. We even had a wedding bank account. Inside it was $60,000, half from me, half from him. My half, $30,000, came from my job and the money I had saved for years. His half, $30,000, came from his work and from his parents, though he never really said how much they gave. I took a slow breath and said, "Okay, if you need space, you need space." He looked surprised. Maybe he thought I would cry or shout. But I didn't. I just sat still, and the calmness felt fake, like an actor pretending to be me. "How long?" I asked quietly. He said, "A few weeks. Maybe a month. We'll see." He was already talking like we weren't together anymore. When he left, he closed the door softly, like he didn't want to wake something. The apartment suddenly felt very big, too big, like the air had grown wider. I sat there for a long time, listening to the rain tapping on the window. I wasn't crying. I wasn't angry either. But something inside me was restless. Something whispered, "Check the wedding venue." So I opened my laptop and found the number of Lydia, the lady from the venue. She answered cheerfully, "Hello, Mara. Are you calling about the final wedding details?" I tried to sound cheerful too. "Actually, I'm just calling to confirm our date," I said. There was a short silence. Then Lydia's voice changed. It became quiet and careful, the way people talk when they know they're about to give bad news. "Oh, Miss Wickham," she said, using the wrong name but trying to be kind. "I'm so sorry. Julian called yesterday, on Monday. He said the wedding was cancelled because of unforeseen circumstances. I'm afraid the deposit of $10,000 is non-refundable." Monday, the day before he told me he wanted a break. The room seemed to tilt a little, just barely. But I stayed calm. I said, "Thank you, Lydia," and asked her to send me an email with proof of the cancellation. She sent it right away. Then I opened our bank account. It showed $50,000 left. We had lost $10,000 to the venue's rule, half mine, half his. So I had $25,000 left, and he had $25,000 left too. I took out my $25,000, not more, not less. That was my fair share. Then I sent him a message. "Lydia said you canceled the venue yesterday. So the break is permanent. I've taken my share of the money from the wedding account. Seems fair since there's no wedding. I hope you find what you're looking for." I didn't wait for his reply. I blocked him. Then I blocked his friends, Catherine, Richard, Sophie, and even Evan, his brother. Because I knew they would all call me and tell me what I should do. The apartment felt quiet again. The rain kept falling outside. I made a new folder on my computer called Wedding Evidence. Inside, I saved Lydia's email with the exact time he canceled. I added my bank statements showing the money I put in and the money I took out. I added the paper that said the funds were for mutual wedding costs. Then I made a new file and called it Timeline. I wrote everything down in order. Monday, Julian canceled the venue. Tuesday, Julian said he needed a break. Tuesday, I took my $25,000 from the joint account. The kettle clicked behind me. I poured more tea I didn't even want. The next morning my phone rang. A voicemail from Julian. His voice was tight and angry. Mara, what do you think you're doing? You took money from our wedding account. You can't just do that. He said our wedding, the same wedding he had already canceled. Then an email came from Catherine, his mom. The subject said, "Urgent financial error." Her message was polite but sharp. She said I had made a mistake and that I was acting cruel. She said the money was for wedding deposits and that I should rectify this oversight. That meant, give it back. I didn't. I sent one calm reply. Catherine, per the venue, Julian canceled the wedding on Monday, the day before he told me he needed a break. The funds were for that wedding. There is no wedding. I withdrew my exact share of the remaining balance. Julian keeps his. Any future costs are his responsibility. Matter closed. Then I took screenshots of their angry replies and saved them in my folder too. Over the weekend, his friends started posting online. Things like, "Some people don't know how to treat others." Picking up the pieces. They wanted everyone to feel sorry for him. Then Julian sent me a spreadsheet. It said I owed him money for the caterer, the photographer, the band, even my dress, which I paid for myself. But when I looked closely, most of the bills were dated after Monday, after he had already canceled the wedding. He was pretending to pay for things that never happened. I stared at the screen for a long time. Math doesn't lie. Math tells the truth even when people don't. When the rain finally stopped, I opened the window. The air smelled fresh, like metal and clean streets. Somewhere far away, a bus went by. Someone laughed under an umbrella. Julian had called it a break. The venue called it final. The bank called it balanced. Only one of those could be true, and it was the one with the numbers. I washed 2 teacups, dried one, and put the other away. He wanted space. Now he had it, in inches, miles, and months. A week later, the quiet started to sound peaceful. But peace and silence aren't the same thing. Sometimes silence hides a storm that's still building. Then my phone buzzed again and again. It jumped on my desk like it wanted to escape. 3 voicemails. 2 emails. 1 text from an unknown number. The message said, "You're making a huge mistake." I didn't need to look to know who it was. Julian's panic always came in 3s. First denial, then blame, then entitlement. The first voicemail was his voice again. "Mara, I just saw the transfer. You can't take that money. I was going to call the venue to reschedule. You're acting crazy." But he didn't even notice his lie. He said he would reschedule, the same venue he had already canceled days before. The second voicemail was from Catherine. Her voice was soft but fake sweet. "Mara, dear, this is all a misunderstanding. Julian is just overwhelmed. The wedding isn't canceled, it's postponed. Please be reasonable and return the money so we can fix this." That word, reasonable, always sounds nice before someone tries to take something from you. I didn't reply. I had learned something important. Silence makes people like them more upset than anger ever could. By the afternoon, another message arrived. It was from Evan, Julian's brother. He sent it through my work email. The subject said, "Be the bigger person." I looked at it for a long moment and then closed my laptop. Because sometimes being the bigger person doesn't mean giving in. It means walking away with your head up and your heart safe. And your money exactly where it belongs. Mara's mom and dad were very worried. They said Julian was a mess. He had been crying and calling his family all day. Then his brother Evan sent Mara an email. "Mara," he wrote, "Mom and Dad are worried sick. Julian can't stop thinking about you. You've made your point. Please just give the money back. It's just money. Be the bigger person." Evan thought he was helping, but really he just wanted to make the family look good. He even sent the message to his own personal email and saved it in a special folder he called Family Damage Control. That same evening, at 6 o'clock, Mara got another email, this time from Julian himself. The subject line said, "Let's handle this like adults." At the bottom of his message, there was a big file called Outstanding Wedding Costs. When Mara opened it, she almost laughed. It was a huge, colorful spreadsheet with neat boxes, colored rows, and fancy labels. Julian had listed every little thing he said he paid for after they canceled the wedding. Things like a flower deposit, tasting menu deposit, and dress alterations. The total was $7,840. He had even included things that didn't make sense, like money for half a tuxedo or custom tailoring for his own suit. Some dates were strange, too. A few bills were made after the wedding had already been canceled. Mara clicked on every file and checked every invoice carefully. One was dated 3 days after they called off the wedding. Another was for his tuxedo marked custom, non-refundable. Her name wasn't on any of them. She sat back and thought, wow, the nerve of this man. Then she typed a short email. No anger, no shouting, just clear words. All funds used after the cancellation are your responsibility. My half of the balance was reclaimed fairly. You still have your full $25,000. What you chose to spend afterward is not my concern. Then she attached a copy of an email from the wedding planner, Lydia, showing the exact date the wedding was canceled. She also attached her bank statement showing both of their deposits, all time-stamped. A few minutes later, Julian replied, in all capital letters, "You're trying to ruin me. My parents are furious. Return my money or we will take legal action." Mara didn't answer. She dragged the email into a folder she called Evidence and closed her laptop. That night, she opened a bottle of wine she had been saving for their honeymoon. It tasted sharp and clean, like courage. As she drank, she began organizing everything. Her lawyer would later call it the cleanest paper trail he had ever seen. She printed every email, every message, every bank record. She used highlighters to mark important lines. Full cancellation, joint fund, non-refundable deposit paid January 9th. She stacked all the papers neatly in a box. It was her fortress, made of facts and proof. By Thursday, the gossip had started. People on Julian's side were whispering online. His longtime friend Sophie, the one who always looked at Mara like she was a secret she didn't like, posted something on Facebook. It said, "Some people show their true colors when money's on the line." Her post was full of sympathy emojis, sad faces, and comments from people who didn't know the full story. Mara read them once, took screenshots of every comment, then muted Sophie's account. She thought, if you want to see how entitled someone is, just tell them no. That's when they show their real faces. The next morning, a letter arrived in a thick white envelope. It was fancy, with gold embossing and the Alden family crest at the top. It was from Julian's mother, Catherine Alden. The letter read, "Mara, your recent actions have caused our family great distress. Julian has been unable to eat or sleep. You have taken shared money and embarrassed him publicly. We raised our children to act with dignity. Surely you were raised the same. Please return the money so this unpleasant matter can end. Consider your reputation. Regards, Catherine M. Alden." It wasn't a threat. It was a warning dressed up like politeness. Mara folded the letter carefully, put it back in its envelope, and slid it under her growing pile of evidence. Then she emailed a family lawyer she once worked with on a project. They met for coffee 2 days later. Mara brought everything, her printouts, her emails, her screenshots. The lawyer sat quietly, reading each page, tapping the corners like he was counting beats in a song. When he finally looked up, he smiled. "You're in the clear," he said. "He canceled first. You have proof. The joint account terms are airtight. They're bluffing. What if they send a lawyer's letter?" Mara asked. He smiled again. "Then we'll reply politely, with receipts." Nothing deflates arrogance faster than timestamps. When Mara walked home, the rain had just stopped. The city lights reflected on the wet pavement. She thought about Julian saying, "We need space." Maybe this was what he meant, her free in the open air, while he was trapped in his family's echo chamber. A few days later, Catherine called Mara's mother. Her mom told Mara about it afterward, still half laughing. "She said you acted out of emotion," her mom said. Mara smiled. "I acted out of math." That shut Catherine up. The Aldens were not used to anyone talking back. Then came phase 2, emotional guilt. Voicemails began arriving. Julian's voice sounded soft, shaky, and rehearsed. "Mara, please." I panicked. "You know how my parents get. I shouldn't have said we were on a break. I just needed them off my back. I love you. We can fix this." He always said we, but he meant you. Later, another message came. "Can we meet somewhere private?" Mara deleted it before he could finish talking. The next day, another email came, long, messy, and full of self-pity. "I made a mistake, okay? But you've made this so cold. You used to be warm, forgiving. I don't even recognize you anymore. I never thought money would matter so much to you." Mara actually laughed out loud when she read that word, money. His mother had called her ambitious once, like it was an insult. So the next morning, she wrote one final email. Subject: Final communication. Julian, you canceled the venue before ending the engagement. The joint funds were used according to agreement. I have no intention of paying for expenses made after cancellation. Please direct all future messages to your legal counsel. Mara. It was the most polite goodbye she had ever written. 2 days later, her lawyer texted. Expect a formal letter soon. Probably a bluff. Keep everything. He was right. On Tuesday, a courier brought a heavy envelope stamped Alden and Pierce, attorneys at law. Inside were 3 pages of serious-sounding words accusing her of stealing money, causing emotional pain, and breaking a promise to marry. They demanded she repay $40,000, $25,000 from the joint account plus $15,000 in damages. Mara read it twice, underlining parts that made her laugh: moral duty, future reputation, social repercussions. Then she called her lawyer. He laughed before she even finished the first paragraph. Don't worry, he said. I'll handle it. And he did. Within a week, Julian's family got a calm, perfect reply. It included a timeline showing Julian canceled the venue on Monday and broke up on Tuesday. Proof that Mara deposited $30,000 and withdrew $25,000, meaning she left some behind. Proof that Julian kept his full $25,000 share. Evidence that every new vendor contract was made after the cancellation. The letter ended with one final line. Further attempts to pursue this claim will be considered harassment. After that, there was silence. Beautiful, peaceful silence. The fog that had surrounded everything began to lift. Mara finally slept through the night. She dreamed of numbers balancing perfectly, like a scale finally even. For almost a week, nothing came. No emails, no angry calls, no warnings about her reputation. Then on Friday afternoon, another envelope arrived, cream-colored and thick. Her name was written in big, dramatic black ink. Inside, a single sentence in Catherine's handwriting. You may think you've won, but you've made an enemy of this family. No signature. No return address. Just the shiny family crest. Mara smiled. She took a picture of the letter, saved it in her evidence folder, and slipped the original into a Ziploc bag. Let them spend money on fancy paper, she thought. I'll keep my receipts. That night, she decided to treat herself. She went out to dinner alone, her first dinner out since everything started. She chose a small Italian restaurant with soft lights and warm bread. She sat by the window, ordered pasta and wine, and watched people walk by laughing and talking. Halfway through her meal, a shadow fell across her table. She looked up. It was Evan, Julian's brother. His face was serious and full of family pride. Mara, he said loudly, we need to talk about what you've done. Mara didn't look up. Do we? He pulled out the chair across from her and sat down without asking. You've embarrassed my sister, he said. You've made my parents look foolish. And now you're hiding behind lawyers. This isn't how a decent woman behaves. Mara set down her fork. You should tell that to your brother, she said. He canceled the wedding before he even told me. Evan leaned forward. You could have just walked away quietly. But you made it a scandal. Mara smiled, a small, sharp smile. I didn't make it a scandal. Your brother did, when he decided that lying was easier than honesty. Before he could speak again, the waitress appeared beside them, her voice calm but firm. Is everything all right here? It's fine, Mara said, standing up. He was just leaving. Evan's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Mara paid for her meal, left a big tip, and walked out without looking back. That night, her lawyer called again. They've gone quiet, he said. That's usually the sign they know they've lost. But people like the Aldens never lose quietly. He was right. The next hit came on social media. Julian's cousin posted a photo of him, standing in front of his parents' big estate with a caption that said, Some people don't know what they had until it's gone. Proud of you for staying strong, bro. The comments were full of people comforting him. She didn't deserve you. Money changes people. You're better off. Mara didn't reply. She didn't comment. She didn't argue. She just took screenshots, every single one, and saved them in her evidence folder. Because Mara had learned something important. Some people spend their lives protecting their image. But she had the truth, and timestamps. And that was more powerful than any family crest. My folder of proof was starting to look like a little museum. I called it The Story of Selfish People. It had screenshots, letters, notes, and messages, all the tiny pieces that showed what had really happened. But the real storm didn't start until 3 days later. That morning, I woke up and saw 47 notifications on my phone. 47. My heart started to beat fast. Something had happened. Catherine, Julian's mother, had made a big post on her community page for everyone to see. The post was long, sad, and full of emotion. She wrote things like, "Our family has been hurt deeply by someone we once trusted. We gave love, kindness, and even money, but we were treated unfairly. We raised our children to have good values, but not everyone is taught the same." She didn't write my name, but everyone who mattered, everyone who knew us, knew exactly who she was talking about, me. Soon my phone was full of messages from people we both knew. Some of them wrote, "I'm so sorry you're going through this." Others wrote, "What happened? Tell me everything." But I didn't answer any of them. I didn't want to add more noise to the fire that Catherine had started. That evening, my lawyer called me again. His voice was calm but serious. "They're trying to use feelings as their defense now," he said. "If this were in real court, they'd lose. So instead, they're trying to win in the court of public opinion by making people pity them." And for about 2 days, it worked. People whispered. Some took their side. Some weren't sure. Then something surprising happened. Sophie, who had been on their side, started to change her mind. Late one night, my phone buzzed. A message from Sophie. "Mara," she wrote, "I don't know what's real anymore. Julian keeps changing his story. First, he said you took his personal savings. Then he said it was the wedding account. Then he said his mom sent the money. Which is true." I took a deep breath and replied, "It's the last one. His mom sent it. And I have all my bank statements with dates." 5 minutes later, another message popped up. "I think I owe you an apology." I smiled a little and wrote back, "No need. But thank you." By the end of that week, Catherine deleted her big public post. No apology. No explanation. She just erased it quietly, like a magician hiding her trick when no one claps anymore. But Julian wasn't finished. On a Sunday morning, my phone rang. The number was hidden, but I knew who it was. The way the silence stretched before he spoke told me. "Mara," Julian said softly, "I can't believe you've let this go so far." "I'm not the one who canceled a wedding and lied about it," I said. "I was under pressure," he said quickly. "You don't understand my family. Everything with them is about reputation and image." "And whose image were you protecting when you canceled behind my back?" I asked. He sighed. "You're still so angry." "No," I said calmly. "I'm just being accurate." He paused. Then, quietly, "You've ruined me. My parents barely speak to me. My work put me on leave. Everyone's turned against me." "That's funny," I said, "because I haven't said a single word." There was a long silence. Then he whispered, "You used to be kind, Mara." I almost laughed. "And you used to be honest, Julian. People change." He breathed sharply. "You'll regret this." "You already said that," I replied. And I hung up. After that, I sat in the kitchen with my tea. The engagement ring was still sitting in its velvet box on the counter. I looked at it for a long time. It wasn't worth selling. The market for irony is never strong. The next day, my lawyer emailed me. His message was short and clear. "The Aldens have withdrawn their case. No more letters. No more threats." Then he wrote, "Congratulations. You're free." But freedom doesn't come with music or fireworks. It arrives quietly like a sigh. In the weeks that followed, the noise faded. The Aldens hid inside their big fancy house. Julian moved back home, pretending it was a break. All the wedding vendors he promised to handle started calling him, asking for unpaid cancellation fees. Since my name wasn't on any of the contracts, I simply told them politely, "You'll need to speak to Julian." Then they stopped calling me. By December, even Sophie stopped posting sad quotes about betrayal. Her silence was her way of saying, "I'm sorry." And me, I learned that being proven right doesn't always feel like victory. It just feels like breathing clean air again. Right before the holidays, I got one last email from Sophie. She wrote, "Mara, I was wrong. Julian isn't who I thought he was. Neither are his parents. I wanted to tell you that I get it now. I'm sorry." I didn't reply. I didn't need to, because by then, I had already given myself the only apology that really mattered. The one that said, "I'm sorry for staying too long. I'm sorry for thinking politeness was safety. I'm sorry for believing love could survive without honesty." Because the truth is, no one can ruin you quite like the people who claim they're protecting you. Endings don't always happen with slammed doors. Sometimes they just arrive softly, like quiet peace after a storm. By January, the gossip about the Aldens had turned into whispers. A friend told me Julian was still living with his parents, sorting out finances. Which really meant he was hiding from responsibility. The vendors he ignored were now chasing him directly. Even people at his job had started hearing what happened. Turns out, reputation doesn't pay bills. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The $25,000 I had taken out of the bank sat safely back in my savings account, untouched. It wasn't revenge. It was a correction. That month, I moved into a new apartment. It was small and quiet, with tall windows that filled the rooms with light. I painted the walls a color called Dawn Linen. I liked the name. It sounded like a fresh start, soft, clean, forgiving. On my first night there, I unpacked slowly. I hung my coats in the closet and put the engagement ring box into the top drawer of my desk. I didn't throw it away. Some reminders you keep on purpose. A week later, an envelope arrived. It looked very official, typed neat and cold. Inside was an invoice from Catherine and Richard Alden. It said, "Therapy costs for emotional distress caused to our son, $1,800. Pay within 30 days. I laughed out loud. I couldn't help it. Then I opened my computer and wrote a reply. To Catherine and Richard Alden, subject. Response to your invoice. Please find below an itemized list of debts from the engagement. Half of rent, utilities, and groceries I paid for 36 months. $14,000 half of wedding deposits you approved post-cancellation. $2,500 emotional labor, lost sleep, therapy to recover from your son's lies, priceless. Total due, $16,500. You owe me. I printed it, sealed it in an envelope, and mailed it during my evening walk. 2 days later, I got a short email from Catherine. It said, "You have made your point. Let's not prolong this any further." That was the truest thing she ever wrote. Winter slowly melted into something softer. My lawyer confirmed that their lawyer had officially closed the complaint. The email subject line read, "Case dismissed." 2 perfect words. I didn't celebrate with champagne or social media. I just brewed a cup of coffee, sat by the window, and watched the snow fall. For the first time in months, I felt still. Because sometimes peace doesn't roar. It hums quietly, like a gentle song you don't need to turn up. In the months that followed, my life began to feel smooth again. I started running in the mornings. The cold air helped clear my head. At work, I got a promotion and took on a new project. I even bought a watch I had wanted for years. Not a fancy one, just one that kept perfect time. I didn't start dating. When people asked, I smiled and said, "I'm resting." That always ended the conversation nicely. Then, one day in April, Sophie sent me another message. She wrote, "You probably won't reply, but I wanted you to know Julian's engaged again. His parents picked the girl this time. She's 24. I hope she knows what she's getting into. P.S. You handled everything better than anyone I know. I learned a lot from watching you." I read it once, smiled, and closed my laptop. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I was just done. Some scars don't hurt anymore. They just stay, quietly reminding you that you healed. That night, I opened my desk drawer and took out the engagement ring. The diamond caught the lamplight, scattering tiny bits of light across the wall. It didn't look beautiful anymore. It looked like a relic, something from another time. I put it into a soft velvet pouch and placed it in a safe deposit box. Not to forget it, but to contain it. Because closure isn't a door slamming. It's the quiet click of a lock when you realize you don't have to open it again. Spring came early that year. Every Friday, I bought white tulips and put them by the kitchen window. They never lasted long, maybe 5 or 6 days. But maybe that was the point. Beauty doesn't have to last forever. On the day that would have been our wedding anniversary, I went for a long walk. The sky was bright. The air felt clean. Somewhere, I imagined the Aldens having a dinner party, smiling politely, pretending nothing had happened. But I wasn't part of that story anymore. When I got home, I opened my journal and wrote one sentence. I didn't lose anything worth keeping. And for the first time since that rainy Tuesday months ago, I believed it. Because revenge had never been my goal. Dignity was. And dignity, I learned, costs nothing, but it pays back everything.